everyone, this is Debbie from Project 39 Mini Albums. This video is part 2 in a series showing you how you can make this mini album using the fabulous Graphic 45 Life's a Bowl of Cherries paper collection. Part 1 shows you how to construct the cover, the hinge, and the base pages, but this video will show you how to make the inside front cover and first few pages and how to construct the features. So let's get started. Alright, I just wanted to show you what the features are in the inside front cover. So first of all, we have this strip, and this is from the 8x8 paper pad. Then we have a double pocket, and the pocket doesn't go the full length of the page, obviously, so it's a little different than normal. I'm going to show you how I make this element with so many different layers, because when you cut it out of the paper, it's just going to look like this, like that. So I will show you that. We will save making these for later, but I will tell you that I did use the Graphic 45 die that goes along with this tag. If you don't have that, the dies or the tags, then you can just put any tags that you want to make in those pockets. So let me get the materials and then we'll start making this page. Alright, I am using this blue pattern paper which came from the Patterns and Solids, and since the page is 8.5 by 8.5, I cut it 3/16 of an inch smaller. That's about my average margin. I might cut 1/8 smaller, but for the cover I cut 3/16 smaller, so it's going to be 8 5/16 by 8 5/16. So I will go ahead and adhere that to the page using liquid adhesive, and I'm using the Art Glitter Glue. I usually go around the perimeter and then fill in the inside. If you're more comfortable using a tape, then you can do it. I like to have a little wiggle room, just so if for some reason I am not spot on, I have time to change it. So I'll go ahead and glue this and put that on. Alright, this is all the papers that we're going to use to layer to make this effect. So you'll see there is the bottle caps, and it's surrounded already by a dark blue rectangle. Then below that we're going to put white paper, and below that we're going to do with the dark blue from the Patterns and Solids, and then white cardstock again, and then the light blue, and then dark blue. You'll notice that light blue has more of a matte margin than the other ones preceding it, and that dark blue has a smaller one. Now if you don't get it exactly the same as I did, it's not a big deal. The only thing is you do want to pay attention to make sure it's going to be less than the size of the pattern paper on the page. Alright, so I'm going to tell you the measurements of all the layers, and let me preface it by saying that if you don't want to have that same look and you just want to put this down, that is fine. I just felt like it was the first page and I wanted it to just be more of a focal point. So with that being said, I'll tell you what the measurements are. So this by itself is 1 1/4 by 7 3/8. This is 1 3/8 by 7 1/2. It's just plain cardstock. This is 1 1/2 by 7 5/8. 1 5/8 by 7 3/4. 1 7/8 by 8 1/4, and 2 by 8 3/16. I will tell you that I did use some distress ink and antique linen on the edges, just because this is such a stark white, and the paper that goes along with the collection, the base color is just more of a toned down color. So the antique linen on the white helps tone it down. If you have more of an antique looking cardstock to use, then by all means use that. So I will just go around the edges with the antique linen. And then also, I'm going to move that aside and give you the measurements for the other accent on the page, which is this. And that is the Have a Sweet Day embellishment. Below that is white cardstock. Oh, I didn't cut that. I have to cut that. Below that is red cardstock, then white, and then the dark blue. So we will get that, and I will tell you the measurements of that. All right, I'll give you all the measurements for this too. So it is 1 by 3 3/8, 1 1/8 by 3 1/4 in white, 1 3/8 by 3 5/16 in red, 1 1/4 by 3 1/2 in white, 1 1/2 by 3 3/4 in the blue. And I am going to ink around this one, and I'm again just going to go to the edge because you're not going to see much more of that. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue these, and I will do that in fast motion. I mean, all you have to do is make sure you center it. And again, I'll use a liquid adhesive so it gives me a little wiggle room. And then just stack them, burnish them real well, and let them dry. And then we can put it on the page once we get all the elements on the page. So I will go ahead and do that now. And there you see, we are all done with that. All right, let us make the pocket that's in the front. So what you'll need for that is a piece that is 4 by 6 3/8 and a piece that is 3 1/2 by 6 3/8 of cardstock. All right, so I've got my cardstock, and I'm going to take a minute and tell you a little bit about how I label things. So FIC is front inside cover. It says front inside cover, top pocket, and bottom pocket. And then I put the measurements. Even though I don't give a cutting guide, you can listen to me and write everything down, or I will write it also on my papers as I go, at least for my cardstock. I'm going to take both of them, and the top pocket I will just score 1/2 inch, and then I'm going to rotate it again and score at 1/2 inch. So you'll score at 1/2 inch on both short sides. For the bottom pocket, you're going to score at 1/2 inch on one short side, and then rotate to put the short side at the top, score 1/2 inch, and then rotate one more time so the other short side is at the side, score at 1/2 inch. And then I will miter these corners. I'm not going to miter the top of that top pocket, but just the corners where the two intersect. And then I'll grab my bone folder and burnish on all of my score lines. And fold. Okay. So there's the book. This is where we're going to put it. I'm going to just lay that there just so I can make sure I have enough room. So there is about 3/8 of an inch. So we are going to have about 3/8 of an inch between the side and where this element starts, where this element ends, and where the pocket begins, and where the pocket ends, and the side of the paper. So just make sure that is centered. And I'm going to go about 1/2 inch up from the bottom. I'm going to just add glue to the bottom right now, and we'll put it on. And luckily this paper has a little bit of a pattern, so you can use that to make sure it's straight. So there's little flowers on the paper, so I'm just making sure that the bottom of this pocket is lined up with the top of that. And then what I want to do is grab a little piece of tape, so that way when we have something going into the pocket, if it goes down, it's not going to get hung up on here. It'll go all the way to the bottom of the pocket. So I'll grab some packing tape. You could use Scotch tape, but I don't have any right now. All right, so I'm just going to place that. You can see the reflection. And I'll burnish here and there. So again, it won't get hung up. Now, I am going to take both pockets, and I'll take the top pocket and put it inside the score lines of the bottom. Now it's not fitting, so I find that I probably need to rescore this a little bit so it's a little bit smaller. Sometimes if you cut the paper at the same time, it makes it easier, and then you don't have to change things. All right. I'm gonna refold it and see if that will work. So I will put this in till about 2 inches is showing. It doesn't have to be exact. And then once I get it in, I'm going to hold this carefully and open up the tab for the bottom pocket and add glue on the top tab on both sides, so that way we know it's going to be lined up properly. And double check it. If you're not sure, just double check it. And again, you can use the top line here. Oops, I'm sorry. Again, you can use this top line to make sure everything is lined up. And then when you know it's good and straight, then add glue to the rest of the tab, put down, and burnish. And I'm going to adhere this now also, because there's no reason not to. So again, we'll use the pattern on the paper to line everything up. Make sure it's straight, and burnish that glue down. Okay, and then let's get some paper for here. Okay, let's adhere the decorating onto this page on the pockets. First of all, you need to know that the border strips came from the border around the Life's a Bowl of Cherries paper. This one, this red is from the Patterns and Solids, and this one is from the page with the cherries. It's called Pretty Please. And then this strip is on this paper. Hold on. It's on the 12 by 12 page, right underneath where it says, I love you, Cherry, much. So the top one has leaves on it, so I made sure that I just cut the bottom one. Now, you don't have to go through all the trouble of cutting these small strips. If you wanted to, you could just cut the paper to cover the whole pocket. I just find that it adds a lot of interest to the page, and it breaks up those large pieces of pattern paper. So I enjoyed using all of the things that Graphic 45 gave to us in this collection. So this piece is 5 1/4. It's 2 1/2 by 5 1/4. And when I put this down, I am going to leave about 1/8 of an inch gap between the blue piece and our polka dot piece. And I'm going to grab an eraser, erase my chalk marks so they don't show through. And I have this piece, and again, this is from the 12 by 12 Life's a Bowl of Cherries, and I have a tiny blue strip which came from Patterns and Solids. So I'm going to put this red one on first. I'm going to put this down just so I can see how much room there is. And then I'm going to take this blue piece and I'm actually going to put it right on top of that last piece that we just glued down. So there we go. All right, now this piece is the same. It's 5 1/4 wide, but it's 3 3/4 tall. It could be as small as 2 1/4, but since this is a pocket, it can go down low. There's no bottom of that pocket till you get to here. So of course I am just going to glue at the top because there's nothing to glue at the bottom. So just put glue on the top half, no more than 2 inches, and then put this down, and I should have put this on first. And I'm going to put this with the lines facing up. It just sort of finishes it off real well. I'm going to re-glue because I lifted it. And erase. And there we go. Okay, and then all these need are the tags. And as I said, we're going to make them later on. I just grabbed them out of the other book. So there is the inside front cover. Now let's go to the front of page 1. And for simplicity's sake, I like to number my pages. So I'm going to call this 1F. This is 1B, 2F, 2B, and so forth. And that's the inside back cover. All right, let's do page 1F next. All right, so let's talk about what we're going to do for the front of page 1. The front of page 1 has a top loading pocket. It doesn't go the whole width of the page. And it's got a right side flap and a left side flap. And then it's got 3 photo mats. 2 are 4x6 and 1 is smaller. I don't know the size offhand. So we're going to go ahead and cut the papers for this. And also there is a magnet on the bottom of the flap that corresponds right about here. So we will be doing all that. So we'll need to cut the front of the pocket, the entire pocket, right flap, left flap. So for that we're going to need the right side flap will be 4 1/2 by 8. The left side is 4 3/4 by 8. The pocket for the top flap is 5 1/8 by 5 1/4, and the top flap is 4 1/4 by 8. So I'm going to move these out of the way, and we'll grab our scoreboard and start scoring. So for the top flap, I'm going to put the long side at the top, score at 1/2 inch and 5/8. So there will be 1/8 of an inch gusset. The pocket for that, I have to make sure I have 5 1/8. I do. So we're going to score 1/2 inch on 3 sides, starting with the 5 1/8 at the top. So score 1/2 inch, rotate, 1/2 inch, and rotate one more time. And then the left flap, we're going to simply put the 5 3/4 side at the top and score at 1/2 inch. And the right flap, we're going to put the short side at the top, the 4 1/2 inch side, and score at 1/2 inch. Whoops. So then we'll grab scissors and miter. I'm going to leave the right flap, left flap, and the top flap alone, but we will miter at the bottom so there's an X where the two score lines intersect. So just cut across that X. And let's burnish, fold and burnish on our score lines. So there's that pocket. I'm going to fold, and there's 2 lines to fold on with an 1/8 of an inch gusset. So make sure you do that. And then we'll fold here. And we'll fold on the right side flap. All right. We'll grab our book and glue. So I'm just lining it on the page, not on the hinge, but on the page. So just line it up and make sure that it is straight and straight with the top and the bottom, and then just burnish. And then the right side flap, same thing. And as you see, I'm being fairly generous with the glue. It's not going to be sopping wet, but it's going to be enough to make sure that it stays on. And then I will again burnish. Okay, I'm going to move this out of the way for a second. And we're going to work on the flap in the pocket. So I'm just going to do something a little different. I'm opening this up and I'm going to put the pocket on the outside and then glue the flaps on the inside. So the pocket will be on the bottom. Then I don't have to worry about anything sticking in there if for some reason the paper I put doesn't go all the way down. So add glue to the inside on the bottom flap of the pocket. Put the top flap right above the fold line so it'll still fold in. I'm going to burnish that now that I know I've got it on there well. I'm going to add glue to this flap on both sides and adhere that. then we'll glue this to the top of the page, centering it in the center. And you're just going to add glue to that bottom flap, of course not on the gusset. So that'll just go here, and then put it just a smidgen above the page, or line it up with the top of the page. You don't want it below. You don't want it below the top of the page. So what I mean is, you want to make sure that these pages will still close. Alright, now I'm going to cut papers and we're going to decorate this page. Alright, let's decorate. So this is one of the embellishments that I cut out. Now it does come with a dark blue outline. When I cut it out, I cut out one side of it, so I ended up cutting it all out. I mean, if you still have it, then keep it. But I also used a light square, almost square, to put below it. So this is 4 1/4 by 4 and, was it 4 1/4? I'm sorry, 4 1/8 by 4 5/8. And I'm going to put that right on the pocket. We'll start from the top and work our way in. I think I'm going to need some glue. Alright, so this will go here. And then this will go on top of it. And you may have noticed I'm not inking the edges. If you wish to, that's up to you. I don't think this paper needs it. So I've got more blue on the top and bottom than I do on the sides, but it's no big deal. And then in the pocket, I have the same width paper, about 4 1/8, and it is about 7 1/8. You can go all the way down to the bottom, which I think is going to be 7 1/4. And you notice I didn't put glue all the way down to the bottom. It doesn't need it. It's not going anywhere. The top's not going anywhere. So I put that in there. I just need to put paper here because sometimes I don't see where the black ends and the next page begins. So there is that. And then of course there's a tag that will go in that pocket that we will do later. And then on the inside, I'm going to turn this around. This is the cherry on top paper. And this is 4 by 6. And I've already put my magnet down, as you can see. Add some glue around there just in case. So I'll put that down, leaving an even border around it, so it looks like there's about 1/8 of an inch here. And then I've got 1 inch by 4, I think it is. Yep. Probably could have been 1 1/8. But I will just center it on the bottom there. And we're good. And this polka dot is from the Pretty Please paper in the 8 by 8. So these two are 8 by 8. And make sure you put this facing up when you put that on. Alright, so that part's done. So now we'll do the front. So for the outside, this is from the paper Life is a Bowl of Cherries. It's the outside perimeter of the 12 by 12. And then I just cut 1/8 of an inch strip of just some blue. And the height of all of this is 7 7/8, since the height of the page is 8. So this is 7 7/8 by 4 3/8. And there is the corresponding magnet. And I will add glue here. And put that on the page, leaving about 1/8 of an inch. Where's that little blue piece? There it is. So sometimes it's hard to get glue on those smaller pieces. So I'm going to just very carefully, I have a spacer. It's not just 6 inches, but it'll work. Just because I can't draw a straight line with my glue. And I'll put that down. Okay, and then with the white lines facing the outside of the page, facing the hinge, I've got to put this down. I have a piece of flannel that I'm going to use. So there's that. Let's do this side. Whoops, let's do the outside. So again, 7 7/8 by 3. And there's only one magnet, or 2 magnets, one set of magnets on this page. That's all you need. That's all you need. And then the red piece. You may notice that I have little pieces of tape on here. When I'm going through making my mini albums, there's the tape. I'll use my ATG just to put a dot of adhesive on the page, and that will hold the paper until I've completed the design of the paper. You see it's here, I just twist this to get it off, just to hold it in place. Alright, and this is 2 5/8. Again, this is the 12 by 12 paper. And this looks to be 1 inch and 1/8. And again, I'm leaving 1/8 of an inch between the 2 pieces. And there we go with that one. Now I guess you want a measurement. So this is 1 5/8. And this is 3 3/8. Alright, and then the bottom piece, so the width of this page is 7 1/2. So this is 7.25. This again is from the 12 by 12 page. And that'll go on the bottom. And I'm going to dry fit this before I put it down, because I want to make sure I have a red piece going along there. Yep. I just wanted to make sure that it was wide enough or not too wide. And the height of this one is 3.25. And it'll just go in the center. There's this little piece. That's okay, because we're going to put a photo mat right on there. And of course we're going to put a tag inside there. Alright, I'll get the photo mats and show you where they're going to go. Alright, I want to show you something. This is the original book. And I've got a white mat for the photos, and that is 4.25 by 6.25. Then the blue below it is 4.5 by 6.5. And then there's a black mat below it. I'm going to not do the black mat. It doesn't add anything to the design, and it adds bulk to the album. So I'm just going to forego that black mat. And same here. So I am going to... I've already cut the mat, so again, that's 4.25 by 6.25, and the blue is 4.5 by 6.5. And we're going to just adhere those to the pages like that. This, again, has a dark blue outline on it. And, you know, when you cut some of the pages, some of these elements, the dark blue might belong also to the one next to it, or I just didn't cut it straight. So I made a dark blue mat to put below that. So I am going to adhere that to the mat, and the mat is just about 1/4 of an inch bigger than this is. So there we go with that. Alright, and then I will adhere these mats. And then if you have other things to decorate these with, if you have the ephemera kit, you can add that maybe to the corner. Don't glue it all the way down so you still can put a photo in. But that would be nice. Or if you wanted to, you could cut some of these cherries out. And again, I'm going to use those polka dots on here to help line up my mat. And then this, the white mat, is 3.25 by 5, and the blue mat below is 3.5 by 5.25. So that is going to go down here. So I have this one up, so I'm going to pull this one down just for interest. And again, you can add an element here if you want. And then this, you could center it, put it one side or the other. I wasn't going to put it here because that's too close to that. So I'm going to put that over there. And I'm just adding glue to the bottom. So you still could tuck a photo in here. And so there we go with that grouping of pages. So we've got room to put your photo here and a portrait photo there, and then a smaller photo or journaling here. And this will close, There's a magnet right there, and there's a magnet here. And you also could put a photo here. I didn't put a photo mount on there just because I liked seeing the blue, but you could add a picture there. And again, you can add a tag here, or there is room for the graphic 45 tag. And that's it for today. Don't forget to check out the next tutorial in this series, Life's a Bowl of Cherries by Graphic 45. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. It really does help me out. So thanks so much for watching, and have a fabulous day.